Hello and welcome back to the Welsh Premiership. It's episode 14 now, and if you haven't joined us before, then feel free to check out our other videos and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram as well at Welsh Prem Pod. We're also excited to announce the launch of our new website, which you can find the links to on our social media channels, where you'll be able to find all the podcasts, news and match reports from the Welsh Premiership. Today we're joined by someone that's been around in the Premiership since 2006, currently at Llandovery, hooker Ricky Guest. Ricky, how are you?
Very good, thanks, gents. Very good. Bearing up in the current circumstances, I suppose.
And Ricky then, so looking back towards last season, Llandovery finished 4th in the league. How do you feel it went as a squad?
I think we missed out on opportunities in games, very, very close games. One that comes to mind is two then. You had Newport at home, we lost 9-3. So a bit of an arm wrestle. And then Merthyr then on a Friday night up in Merthyr, we lost, I think, by 2 points. And it came about, we had a penalty against us last play of the game for an offside of a kickoff, which was a talking point and still remains a talking point, I think. And if I see Dewi Phillips, the ref, I'll be asking him again if he's watched it and has his view changed. But so games like that, and then you had games then where, like against Cardiff, did we perform as well as we could at home? We lost, I think it was 20-25. Probably not, but Cardiff, to be fair, they ticked all the boxes last year, didn't they? They had Grunt up front, they had plenty of boys who could play behind, and they play very well. So, and to be fair, with the likes of, at the time, it was Gethin Jenkins and Rhys Thomas coaching their analysis, because effectively, they're full-time coaches. Their analysis is of professional standard. So, whatever you threw at them, they probably watched it in a week and then they would defend it. Line-out time for example, and if you shaped up for back plays, they could see what was coming off. And then they just marked it up, which is really difficult. And they've got a few ball players there in the forwards and in the backs. They're a difficult team to play against. But as the season went on, I thought we got a lot stronger. I think we had the reintroduction of Lee Rees at 9, who'd been away chasing his missus in Australia. So we missed him. I won't say out to his face, but we did miss him. He came back and he brings about the threat, doesn't he, on every passage of play he's involved in. And that's another big factor of our game, is we try and play as much as we can, although it doesn't suit my body shape or my game anymore at times. But we're probably quite difficult to defend because you don't know what's happening half the time, because neither do we. We just have a go and we look to play. We look to play and we'll have a go and then we'll rebuild after the first couple of phases, and get into shape. The league last year was one that there wasn't any teams there that couldn't beat each other. Every game you didn't know which way it was going to go. I know Cardiff were the out and out front runners, but people were coming up behind them. I don't think we'd caught them. We were nowhere near last year, but every game was a battle, and being in their shoes, every game against them was like a final, wasn't it? In a sense, and even the sides that since they brought it down to 12 teams, everyone can beat everyone, and that's probably a massive plus for the Premiership, because there's no actual targeted games as such, because you're against a good side every week, and you've got to be at your best every week. But as a season, it was a mixed one for us, because we let a few games slip, but then we performed very well in other games which we were pleased about, and we were getting better, and then COVID hit, and then obviously it affects everything then, and everything stopped.
So as Tobias mentioned, the team finished 4th last season, but how do you think the season went for you personally?
Probably a bit of a disaster, really. We had a hooker join us, Alan Rees from Bedwas. Fair play, played against Alan for years, and he started the season having the nod in front of me. So my game time was very minimal at the start, and probably deservedly so. He's a lot fitter than I am. And I was coming on for the last 20 and just pushing in scrums and shooting set piece up, I suppose. And then in January, we were playing against Bridgend, and everything was going great. Game was going good. and then Dino Dalla Valle was struggling in a ruck to move somebody. I fly in behind him. As we fall, I catch his eye and end up having a fractured eye socket with a 26mm cavity underneath my eye, with my eyeball dropping, and in turn have a plate fitted in my face to fill the gap, so to speak. So that was January the 18th. So I was due back 16 weeks after. So that was early April. But then COVID hit, and so I'm like a new man. I'm fresh. I haven't played for 11 months now, so I'm like a spring chicken again.
And at Llandovery then, you're coached by Euros Evans, who's obviously been at Llandovery for a while now, a very highly rated coach. How important is he to Llandovery, and sort of what style coach is he?
I think I'd echo everyone's views on Euros. He doesn't say much because he doesn't need to, because he knows his onions. As for his position in Llandovery, to be fair, he's very well thought of by everybody in the club, because he's brought about success with not a lot of, how can I say, not a lot of purse to get there. Financially, Llandovery are self-sustained. They haven't got a backer. The directors there, to be fair, source all the sponsors, etc. And that then, and the caravan park next to the ground generates the income. So what Euros has done, I think, is massively appreciated by everybody. But me on a personal level, I've known Euros since college. So I've known him now probably 15 years, and we've done a lot together at the start. Due to him being a hooker, me being a hooker coming through at 16, 17, and I didn't have the best arm, and before anybody chips in when this goes on Twitter, I still haven't, but he helped me a fair bit. So we spent a lot of time together in the early days, and then we kept in touch over the years then, and we're now back working together for the last 3 years. And he's like I said, he doesn't say much. He knows his stuff. Tactically, he's very good. I find his analysis on other teams and his perception of rule changes and how to overcome them is probably a massive strength for him. As soon as a rule change comes about, he's one of the first there to try and manipulate that rule change to get round it, so to speak, legally. He's obviously, it's his job. He's a director of rugby in the college in Colsigar, which again is very successful. So he's in essence a full-time coach, and I think that's paid dividends for Llandovery as well, because he's brought in a lot of players who have come through the college pathway as well, me included.
And looking forward to next season, whenever that may be, what do you think of Llandovery's chances for the league title?
I think it's definitely a target, isn't it? Obviously, we're probably looking to say we're going to aim for top 3, but nobody ever remembers second and third, do they? So the target is always winning, whether it be the cup or the league. But the league is obviously the prize that everyone wants to win, because it's a much longer sustained campaign of success, isn't it? Really, got to win every week. We made a couple of good signings, a couple of old boys coming back to help us, both coaching and playing, which will help us really, because we've got such a young squad. You've got to have that sort of mix. And I know a lot of people criticise the Premiership for that, saying there's a few journeymen, etc. I don't know any mind, but you've got to have that mix, haven't you? You've got to have some sort of experience to help the youth come on and deal with different situations, both emotionally, I suppose, and in a rugby sense, because now and again they can't see right from wrong at times because they've never been told. And instead of a coach having to say that, you know what I mean? It's always good to have an older player put your arm around you, so to speak, and just have a chat. I know that happened with me when I was coming through. Like, there were a couple of older heads in Clech who I leant on, and hopefully I can do that myself. But back to it. So Llandovery, yeah, I think we're really trying to push, and I don't think we're going to hide that fact. There's going to be a lot to change. I don't know whether different clubs will have the same views with regards to the size of their purse, so to speak, because there's a lot going on. So where the contracts will be revoked, etc., I don't know. Nobody knows. But what we do know is Llandovery recruited very well, and I think everyone is very much on board to when we kick off. We're going to kick off and hit the ground running. We haven't trained much together because there is no end goal at the moment, is there? There's no time scales. But I think when the time will come and we have the eight-week warning, so to speak, I think we'll be raring to go, and me being one, to be fair. I am missing it big time at the moment, so I'm looking to kick off.
Obviously, no one knows when the season's going to restart now, but when it does restart, what are your goals and ambitions for next season on a personal level?
To play is the main one. There's two young hookers in Llandovery now, and obviously we have the likes of Dav Hughes coming down. So obviously you just got to take your opportunities when they're there, like every other player in the Prem, because the squads are so competitive. If you can't live on what you've done last season or the season before. It's very much week by week. But yeah, try to play as much as I can. I'm getting older. I want to play as much as I can, enjoy it. Try and help the youngsters as well, like I mentioned previously. And yeah, just enjoy it and try and bring about some success and have a crack with the boys as well. That's a big thing. And I mean, everybody's got their stresses, and when I go to training, you forget about that stress then, don't you, of work and life and whatever's going on. But yeah, personally, I just want to play as much as I can, and it's as simple as that.
Last season then saw the retirement of Richard Brooks, Llandovery captain. He's obviously been around at Llandovery for a while now. What did he mean to Llandovery, and how big of a miss will he be?
For me personally, it's a lot less of a headache. Him moaning all the time and talking about Bonamine. But no, in all honesty, he brings a lot to the table. Rich, he was well respected by all of his peers, which probably took a burden off a lot of the coaches as well, because the coaches didn't have to say much really. The likes of Brooksy would say it, and the boys would respond. Yeah, he's good leadership strengths. I mean, he led from the front. He didn't back down to anything, which is always nice to see. I know he wasn't as quick as what he was the end of last year, but neither of us are others like myself. But yeah, he epitomised, I think, what Llandovery is. I mean, he's gone up there many moons ago. He married a girl from Llandovery. His in-laws are from Llandovery. Every time he put on the jersey, it meant something to him. And to be fair, he passed that sort of trait on to the other boys as well. And when he spoke before games and stuff, he always reiterated the fact that, I mean, let's do it for the fans and let's do it for the club, because to be fair, they do it for us in the sense that they watch us every week. If that's one thing he did bring about was a sense of community. So Rich was the first to push to have the youth in with us on a social evening, etc. So if we were on having a few beers on the piss in the club and the youth were next door, he'd be the first to go in and get them, and they'd have a crack with us and bring it all together, even the seconds, because at times I think the Premiership has lost this sense of club, because there's lots of clubs without a structure underneath, if that makes any sense. It's one team and there's not a lot else, but that's where Llandovery is really fortunate. It's got a strong junior section, it's got a strong youth section. The seconds are strong in their own right, and he brought that all together. And what else as well, which was nice last year, some of us have got children, the older boys, and we brought that in as well, and the juniors to run out and give them opportunities with mascots and stuff. So it creates that. To be fair, he created that sense of community within the club, but whilst creating that, he got people there as well, because everyone wanted to be part of it, because it was really good, in fairness. And that's one of the things I miss when I go up now. When we go up to Llandovery, I got two young children and a partner. We all go up. You know what I mean? It's a day out for us all. And if we can create that type of environment, you're only going to attract people, players, sponsors, supporters, aren't you? So to be fair, he will be missed massively. Again, if I watch this now, he'll give me loads of grief, but I don't want to swear. Yeah, he will be missed. I'm sure we'll see him up in Church Bank on a touchline giving us loads of abuse, because after a beer or two, he does get brave. Yeah, he will be missed, and I'm sure he'll come back to Llandovery in some shape or form in the future, whether it's coaching or part of the club in some form.
And I know you want to keep on playing, but you've had a bit of a look into coaching. What are your ambitions coaching-wise after you finish playing?
Yeah, I've always enjoyed that side of it, in all honesty, because to be fair, I had a lot of time when I was younger, between the age of 17 and 19. I didn't play an awful lot because of injuries. I had 4 shoulder reconstruction, so I had plenty of time to watch and probably analyse how coaches worked, in the sense. Quite strange for a youngster. But yeah, so I've done my coaching badges. I've got my level 3, so I've done all that, all that side. I just need to massively put it into practice now. I do help Iros if he's not there. I'll take the set piece side of it. Very, very difficult when you're a player trying to tell your peers that they're wrong or not in a capacity which is outside a player. But yeah, so obviously that's going to be something to work to, definitely, when I finish, because I think the transition from playing to coaching, I hope, won't be too difficult, in the sense that I'll be quite recent in the coaching methods, because obviously I want to go into coaching straight after I play, and as well I do enjoy it. So if it's something I can do as soon as I finish, like I said, though, I want to play as long as I can. That's definitely, because that's all I hear off the older boys is, you're a long time retired, and that's not a regret I want in a couple of years to say, oh, I wish I'd gone another year. So I'll finish when my body says I can't go anymore, or I feel myself that I'm nowhere near where I should be and I'm just taking up a space. And that'll be the day I'll say, right, that's enough now. But yeah, for coaching, definitely something I want to get into. Hopefully in a year or two I'll have a bit more exposure, and then see where we're at then.
You've played for quite a few clubs in the Prem. What are your favourite memories playing in the league so far?
Ooh, tough one. Tough one. Good question. I think probably from a front row type of opinion, this will be. Merthyr have always had a massive pack, haven't they? Since they've had basically a blank checkbook, and there's no hiding from that, they have. But when you take them over their own line and get a penalty try, I don't think there's any better feeling than that, in all honesty. There was a couple of games where I really enjoyed for other clubs. So I remember beating Ponty once for the Quins down in the park, 6-3. So that was a nail biter. And I remember Chief coming down the stairs, and I thought he was going to kill the ref, which is always a memory which will stay with me. I think playing the Quins now in Llandovery is always an occasion you look forward, and when you remember, like we had I think it was 13-all Boxing Day this year, which is good. Enjoy the local derbies. Yeah, so I think my memories of the Premiership are very much local derbies and the tight games and the successes you have during games rather than a game. I played for Swansea in the Championship for 2 years, and a game that we came up against RGC with a drop goal from Jack Wilson, where we were behind all game, and he kicked the drop goal, and we won by a point, I think it was. And that is definitely a game which I remember, because the night out that followed was superb. So it was a good day on the field, but it was probably better off the field as well as the night went on. But yeah, not so much a memory. Plenty of good memories, and plenty of stories, I'm sure, after a few beers.
And who are some of the best players you've played with or against in the Welsh Prem?
I can't pick myself, can I? So there's a couple. There's a lot of good guys been in the Prem over the years. I don't think they've been appreciated as much as what people have thought. So if you go back a few years, you had the likes of Simon Granger playing for Bedwas. Him and Derry in the back row were a right pain to play against. They'd be rubbing, as a youngster, they'd be picking mud up and rubbing it in your face and stuff, all the old tricks, all good fun. That's a good question. I think one of the best players I've played with, and he was coming to the end of his career at the time. There was two actually. You had Celino Martens. He was down the Quins when I was there, and the bloke was streets ahead. He left the Scarlets to sign for the Quins, which was, I think the Scarlets offered him a contract at the time, and the Quins offered him, and he went for the Quins. But what he could do, and just he could punch a hole in a defensive line easy enough because he was so strong. He could square up and just push people over. It was good to play with him. A couple of others, and a few older heads actually. In one of the toughest players I've played with, Andrew Thomas, who played for the Quins. He was a flanker. I think he finished when he was about 37. Tough cookie. And then who else? There's a fair few, like playing with people now, like Stuart Worrell in Llandovery, the guy is so underrated. Real tough character, doesn't say much, gets on with it, and is everywhere. And it's just a personal battle for him, I think, in his own head to tackle as hard as he can and to make as many rucks and many jackals as he can, and to do whatever it takes to get there. You had a few boys then who I've played with over the years, and against, I think, people like Hayden Pugh and the Quins. If he was a bit bigger, would he have made it? Probably not. But he's been excellent in the Prem. Thinks he should be a professional. Still does. Still puts tints in his hair. He's 31 years of age. Like 32 by now. But yeah, there's plenty of good players in the Prem who are good Premiership players, who have helped players go from Premiership players into professional players. And there's a lot of examples of that currently. You watch the Pro 14 games, and there's a lot of players playing emerging now who have had a season or two in the Prem and have been good Prem players, but are kicking on now to be good professionals. Look at Jack Morgan in the Scarlets. He's tearing it up, isn't he?
Yeah. Played
for Aberavon. Good player, good bloke. You got Morgan Jones, stretch. He played for us a couple of times, second row. He's toughened up a bit now, in fairness to him. He's a bit of a fanny with us at times. But he's playing well for the Scarlets now. He's chucking his weight about, and rightly so. He's a big man. You've got Jack Price playing with the Scarlets as well, second row.
Yeah.
He's doing well. Always enjoyable to play against Jack. It wouldn't take much for him to go off his head, which was always funny to do, and kept winding him. So he kept getting prodded. But then you've got the likes of Ben Thomas in Cardiff. Is it Ben?
Yeah.
He's class act. He was a class act in the Premiership, and he's transferred that straight into regional rugby, hasn't he? And he's doing really well for himself.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of good players in the Prem. Lots of good players who have helped the likes of these boys go through as well. And I don't think the armchair supporters as such, and the ones who are very negative against the Prem at times, realise the importance of having steady Prem players who have been there for a couple of years just to help these boys along. Because at the end of the day, they need to play. And if they don't play, they don't develop. Yeah, you can play against each other in training, but it's not the same. It's not the same. You haven't got the adrenaline. You haven't got the conditions playing a factor, because the academy boys are normally training on 3G bands and stuff. And stuff like that. And the environment, away venues, Bargoed away on a Friday. You can't train for that. You know what I mean? Bargoed away on a Friday, Cross Keys in the pissing down rain. You can train as much as you want. When back probably last year, when you had the likes of Danny Hodge and Darren Hughes and those boys trying to hit lumps at you, you're not going to have that as a youngster in training you. And you soon realise, hold on, this is a bit different to what I expected. But that's the learning curve these boys have. And I'm not saying all the games are like in the Premiership, because a lot of them have come up trumps in the last couple of years, because the standard is excellent. And I think that's been replicated by the views of the people who are actually watching it now, sat on their couches. Because before, they were the ones saying, oh, it's not fit for purpose, but they hadn't actually watched anything. But now or was then last year, the Friday night games, I think, became very popular and give us some real good exposure, actually, and made people, if there wasn't games on, actually go and watch a Prem game, whereas they wouldn't in the past, which has obviously led itself to a lot of positives, I think.
You've been involved in the Premiership since 2006, but how do you feel like the league has developed since then to what it is now?
Ooh, good question. So in 2006, you had a lot of, how can I say, it seemed as if you had a lot of boys who had been professionals or just signed academy contracts in the squad. So the likes of, I was involved in Connect in 2006, 2007. Didn't play much, granted, because I was 17. I was very much a stock up looking back, but it was great for me to be in that environment. And you had the likes of Rhys Priestland, Dom Day, Lou Reed. Who else was there at the time? You had Dan Godfrey was there, who's now the manager upon a pre. He was playing then. You had Jonathan Edwards. You had Lee Williams, who's a Sevens World Cup winner from Pontyberem. He'll enjoy me saying that. He likes that. You had John Fox at the time. Jonathan Davis. You had lots of good players coming through, and a lot of them have made it. You know what I mean? And in the latter part of that, then you had the likes of Gareth Davis. You had Scott Williams come through. So even then and against now, it seems to work. It does seem to give the players exposure to kick on. What has changed in the league, I think, is the intensity has gone up a hell of a lot more. You've got a lot more plastic pitches, which helped. You know what I mean? That changes the style you've got to play because you've got to be fitter, you've got to be more agile, you've got to be more aware because the game, the ball and play times are a lot higher now than what it was then. There's still an importance, obviously, on set piece, and a lot of teams do a lot of set piece work because it does pay dividends and it does give you a reward at the end. The difference, I think, is you've got a lot more clubs being a lot more professional in the sense that they realise, right, we're Premiership clubs, we've got to be more professional. You know what I mean? And the number of clubs obviously have come down. I think the A licenses and stuff like that have helped as well because of duty of care and the clubs then and your medical side. Everything is, not saying it wasn't there before, but everything seems to be catered for now. And as well, it seems as if the clubs are investing a lot more in different type coaches as well. So instead of just having the forwards and the backs coach, as you did do back then, and maybe a conditioner, you'll have more specific coaches. You might have a defence coach, you might have a unit coach, that type of stuff. But as for, I just say it's got a lot quicker. You know what I mean? You haven't got as many, how can I say, massive blokes. You look at Neath back then, you had a front row with them. I think the two props must have been about 19, 20 stone. Massive bruisers. And as a 17-year-old at 14 stone-ish, going into the middle of that, it was quite an experience, to be honest. But yeah, I just think it's a lot quicker. The ball and play time's a lot higher. And the plastic pitches have lent themselves to that as well.
Yeah, so you sort of touched upon it in previous questions, but how do you feel playing in the Prem helps the regional youngsters coming through?
I think if you ask most of them, the more grounded boys, I think they'll say it does help. And it has brought them on because, like I said earlier, I don't think training and carrying bags at times carries its weight as much as playing, in the sense that I can't see a 19 or 18-year-old prop learning a lot from a machine. If he goes to the likes of, well, last year and you had to play against someone like Cornock up in Cross Keys, you'd learn more in that 80 minutes than you would in 3 weeks on a machine, I'm sure, because you'd be in some positions and you wouldn't want to be in that position again. But yeah, I think it does benefit youngsters. I think it gives them the confidence to express themselves as well and know they're going to be protected as well. Because at times I think we do hang people out to dry, one bar performance, etc. And I don't know how it works in a professional game. I've never been a professional, but do they have that support function, or are they treated like members of staff? And if they're not doing their job, they get changed. I don't know, is the honest answer. But I think, yeah, I think it does benefit the youngsters. And like I said earlier, the guys coming through now in the Pro 14 have played a fair bit in the Prem and are now reaping the rewards, aren't they, in Pro 14, like the boys I mentioned earlier, which is great to see, to be honest, and good luck to them.
So, in your opinion, then, would you say that there's room for both, like the Academy A leagues and the Premiership in the player development?
It's a point which nobody wants to make a call on, isn't it? Because nobody knows what they want to achieve out of either. So you either go like the English do and go full bore on an A league, or you don't bother, because the A games at times, you see how they treat them and how they treat players coming in and out, and well, I don't know. I don't see the benefit of it, in all honesty. Would it be better for that person to be playing in the league, in the Premiership, rather than go to Belfast and play 10 minutes and get tonked? Probably not. The only thing you can get out of that is a headache on a Sunday after the night out. You know what I mean? But it's a difficult one. I get the pros and cons for both. You're playing in an A league against professionals, granted, but there's not a lot of experienced professionals playing in that A league. You're going to play youngsters against youngsters. Will they have the experience of playing against the experienced boys who they'd be up against in the Premiership? Granted, they're not professionals, granted, but those boys have been about a long time. They've learned a lot of the do's and don'ts, and then that then lends itself to help them, giving the youngster the experience of, oh, that's not in the rule book type scenarios, and how would you deal with it? Because it does happen. Is there a place for both? Probably, but they need to understand the aims of both and what outcomes they want. Because at the moment, a lot of people are for the Premiership, a lot of people are against. But there's no substance either way to say which one's best. So Premiership have got the example and got the evidence that it seems to work, because you look at the Welsh team now, a lot of that team have come through the Premiership. And there's no hiding from that fact, unfortunately, for the people who don't want it to happen, don't want it to work. There's evidence there. How many people haven't played in the Premiership and played in A leagues and gone on? I'm not sure. How much evidence of that is there? I don't know. But it's one of those, you either go one or the other. I don't think you either go completely amateur and don't pay anyone and then invest in the A league and have bigger squads for the regional teams, or you scrap it, in my opinion, because people are having 60, 70 minutes. Just go and play for Connecticut, or go and play for the Quins and come down. But you know what I mean, get them in the squad, be part of it, so they feel part of the squad, because most of the youngsters are on the fringes all the time. They're in the gym, they're playing, then hopefully they've got a mentor in place, which they can lean on if they've got any troubles or any question to ask. I'm not sure if that's the case. I'd hope it is, because that's a cracking environment if it is. But then, like I said, it's either one or the other, and you either make it completely amateur, the Premiership, and go back to club rugby in the sense that you play for your own club, or you make it into a championship type standard and make it amateur, or you go fully fledged A leagues with bigger professional sides and bigger academies, picking up the best of the bunches and at an early age, giving them the pathway through that way, rather than the current pathway of coming into the Prem, playing your trade, and then kicking on, if that's the way they want to go.
And then in terms of like yourself playing at Llandovery, then do you look forward to when players are dropping down from the academies, or I imagine if you're playing at hooker week in, week out, and a boy from the academy drops down, you think you're playing well and they take your space straight away, that could be a bit frustrating. So what are your thoughts towards that?
Yeah, it isn't, isn't it? That's the structure. That's the pyramid. You know that. Yeah. You know that when you sign up. You'd be naive to think that's not going to happen. What I've got to do as a player is try to get to a point where I hear our scores, or we don't need any hookers down. I mean, we're comfortable with what we got. But he's not of that mindset. He's there to work in the pyramid of regional rugby, which it is. So if a youngster's coming down, I'm happy to help him 100%. And I wouldn't be negative. I'd make him feel welcome, introduce myself straight away, because you know what I mean, I'm never going to make it. He might. So if I can help him, that's my job done, isn't it? And that's the role of the Premiership. And to be fair, the guys who have dropped down with us, and I think Brooksy said as well when he done the podcast, they all give it 100%, and you don't mind that. If they're coming down and they can't be asked, I've got no time for that. But if they're coming down and they want to be there, they want to contribute well, they want to make a difference, well, great, absolutely brilliant. Bring them down. They feel part of it, they'll be made welcome. But like I said, I'm never going to be a pro. So if somebody comes down, I can help him, even with something small. Not saying I will, but even if I can, great, happy days.
And then completely differently as well then, there's been a lot of news come out in the last week or so about concussion and rugby. What are your thoughts on the current concussion protocols? Have you ever been, obviously they've come on leaps and bounds since you first started in the Premiership in 2006, but do you think there's some room for improvement there? Well,
it's one of those with us. I don't think we really have a HIA protocol in the Prem. I'm not 100% sure if I'm honest, but I think that only applies to the professional game. So if you have a knock and the doctor pulls you off, you're off, and then you do your assessment based on your SCAT test on the Tuesday or the Thursday, and that will give you the time frame then of your return. But I'm pretty sure it's 3 weeks, whether you're good or bad in the Prem. That is the protocol.
Yeah.
Is it better than what it was? Of course it is, because now refs are empowered to pull players off.
Yeah.
Doctors will pull players off, and I think players as well will go, he's all over the shop, get him off.
Yeah.
So I think that side of it is much better. I've been quite lucky. I got a head like a breeze block, so I've been all right over the years. Doesn't look like it, but I've been all right over the years. But it's people are much more aware. They know the signs, they know the symptoms, and to be fair, you can see it during games. If somebody's had a knock, you'll see another player from the other side going, he's all over the shop. And then as fellow players and peers on the field, you've got to act on that, haven't you? And you just got to do what's right there. Although he might be a best player, if he's all over the shop, you don't want him being injured quite seriously through a head injury when it can be avoided.
And to finish, Ricky, we got a teammates quiz for you.
Oh, here we go.
I know you've seen some of these, but of all your teammates, who's the worst dressed you've seen?
Worst dressed? Oh, I think I'm right in saying this. Scott Maynard is up there. Absolutely shocking dress sense. Thinks he's out of the only way is Essex, and he's just a short midget who wears clothes that are too tight for him, really.
And who's the best drinker you've seen in the squad?
Can't pick myself, so Berrien Watkins got a fair barrel to hold it, to be fair. He's pretty good. Bez. Jamie Hughes, he's a quiet sipper. He tackles you from behind, he does, if you're on rounds. He's good like that. Who else? Cantona's pretty good as well, a manager. He likes a strong lager. He gets in a knot.
And who's the biggest liability you've seen on night out?
Oh, there's one winner here. Jack Jones. 100%. WWE pushing champion. Just loves pushing people and getting his chest out, and he's just a pain in the ass after beer, really. He just gets very aggressive, very angry man because he's losing his hair. Like, he's one of those. He's gets very, very angry, and he has one too many Marabous and Cokes and look out.
And who's the best changing room DJ you've had there?
Oh, but Llyr Green was. But I think Handel in the stand is pretty good. It's David Iwan and all Welsh songs up the stand. I quite enjoy that rather than the euphoric dance crap that Llyr was playing, to be honest.
And if you was to be stuck on a desert island, who's the teammate you'd most want to be stuck with and the teammate you'd least want to be stuck with?
Good question again. Least want to be stuck with would be Scrappy Lee Rees, because after 5 minutes the conversation's ended because he's dull as a brush. Most probably Berrien Watkins, because I'm thinner than him and I feel good about myself.
Right, that's a wrap for this episode then. Cheers for coming on, Ricky.
Thank you, boys. All the best.
This is our last episode before Christmas now, so have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we'll be back on New Year's Day for the next episode. Thank you and goodbye.